Well, so we're here to do a lot more of the discussions. We know that, as always, you would want to have your messages coming through. We're very much grateful. Please, as always, join us on WhatsApp through the number 0560 800,000. And also, if you want to link us through our Twitter as well as our Facebook pages, it's always Joy News on TV. And many of you have been giving us a lot of those messages. We're very grateful, as always. And I have in the studio Member of Parliament for Nabdam constituency, Boniface Gambila Adambila. And thanks for joining me.
Yes, good morning.
You're on recess. When are you resuming? Next 3 weeks?
Tomorrow?
Oh, just tomorrow. All too soon.
So they say.
Yeah, the time is up. Right. So we're here to do the discussions. And which of the issues caught your mind over the weekend?
Okay.
Okay.
A whole lot of
Let me just
issues.
refresh you.
Yes.
Do you hear about the president saying that the MMDCEs who are pursuing education should, is it, how do you defer? You heard that? Okay.
Mostly they
Now
have to
let's speak to Mr. George Chebafor. He's a local government expert, and he used to be, is it the national president of the National Association of Local Government?
NALAC.
Yes, NALAC. Okay. And a very good morning to you, Mr. Chebafor.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
Yes, that very announcement that was made, I hear though, was made by the Minister for Local Government, Collins Dauda. What do you make of it?
Well, thank you very much, and greetings to your cherished listeners and your panelists. I think that looking at the scheme of things, the president appointed these MMDC and gave them specific terms of engagement. And for that matter, I believe that whenever they wanted to pursue any academic laurels or fortunes, they ought to seek the permission of the president. Because I don't think, from my knowledge of the functions and the terms of engagement, it is part of it that they have to, pursue academic, laurels, but they would have to seek the permission of the president. So if they were attending these courses, they had automatically or definitely they had the permission of the president through the ministry. And if the president says, at this time, in the discourse of the performance of your functions, defer your course for one reason or the other, I think there's nothing wrong with it. My only reservation is that, you see, it's becoming too many these days that MMDCs want to take advantage of such positions to improve upon their academic status. My reservation stems from the fact that, see, at that level, you have no deputy. And in his absence, nobody can perform his functions. If you look at his functions in the context of the law, strictly speaking, his functions cannot be performed if he's not there. Not even with all apologies, the regional ministers and deputies who are appointed to act in their absence. These things I consider them illegality. And so if you are permitted to go and do further studies, then you leave a very huge lacuna. And that definitely would affect the delivery of expectations within the district.
It's a very interesting point you make, though. But I have in the studio also Mr. Gambila, who is the Member of Parliament for Nabdam, and I believe that you very much know the way he is and the way he reacts to a lot of the things. But I would want to ask your reaction to this as well, because I know from all the experiences that those who have been appointed by the president are quite young. And so if we have the average being young, they should be in school. I mean, logically, unless.
Right. Let me proceed by saying, using myself as an example, when I jumped into politics, my course director in the United Kingdom, Manchester to be precise, stopped over in Accra, first of all to say hello, and secondly to put a request. And what was the request? He said, I've been identified to come and do a PhD program in Manchester, where I left. And I told him, I've jumped into politics, and I wouldn't have the time for that, because I want to represent my people, and so I've made a choice. So defer your offer of PhD for Boniface. And I didn't go. And up to date, I haven't gone. Right. In every institution, there are conditions that help to develop their staff. And the conditions are such that, let me take education, for example. If you want to go and acquire further qualifications and you are a worker in the Ghana Education Service, the year before, you have to apply for a kind of study leave or whatever it is. And you go the following year. That's how it works. So what the chief of staff announced, or let me say the president is doing, that is political propaganda. Because this government, or the president, has been in office since 2009. And we know the political appointees, or the government appointees, who started in 2009, moved into acquiring further qualifications. Why didn't they do that at their previous organizations? Okay? They didn't do so because they were appointed and they had to leave their previous organizations to come and do the politics, which is a national significant assignment. It's a whole national service by itself. Now, if you come in and after 7 years, 8 years, you now come out with the propaganda that appointees who are pursuing further studies using government resources, using state resources, then where were you 7 years ago when they were doing it? So this announcement will come to nothing. It's just a populous kind of thing. They are just.
But we still have Mr. Chief on the line. I know you want to say a lot more about it. But beside the political side of things, Mr. Chebafo, by your experiences and being the president of NALAC for a very long time, and also doing a lot more the consultancy and the education for all these people who are into politics and local governance, when should they get educated? When we know averagely they are young people who should be pursuing their postgraduate and doctoral thesis or doctoral education, etc.
Well, I think that let me try and just propose what I want my comments on this into what your panelists have just said. I think that to an extent I agree with him. You see, if indeed these people sought permission from the president and they were doing their courses and the president wanted them to freeze the course until further notice, this one could have been an internal administrative arrangement, not by public announcement. But otherwise, people will look at it as a populist, propaganda by government. Now to the question itself. You see, if you are a president and you want to appoint people into political positions, these are not career positions; they are political appointments. And for that matter, you ought to look out for specific qualifications that the position or the status require before effecting the appointment. So once you look out for it, assuming that all things are equal, and the person gets appointed, and then the person says, I want to go and use this opportunity to do PhD or to do master's or to do a degree course, it doesn't fit very, very well. But sometimes one can attribute the extensive nature of these developments to the fact that there are too many uncertainties surrounding these appointments these days. Let me use the Ashanti Regional Minister as an example. The man was headmaster of a secondary school and he occupied a very important position in Chad. I mean, it was quite, a responsible position. Then he is asked to take up the position of regional minister. He takes the position and in less than a year, he is fired. So sometimes people, are still insecure secured in these positions and would want to take advantage, human as they are, to improve upon their academic, potential, so that in the event that they are fired, then they wouldn't have lost outright. So, well, we need to look at it in a wider context and determine, what the qualifications ought to be in terms of the president's consideration of appointments to these positions. We need to look at the security of tenure of these appointees, and then we need to look at the political conditions in which we find ourselves.
The other side of the argument is what has been teased out over the period about what the constant criticism is as to why some, or perhaps maybe a chunk of appointees, something that also has been leveled on many appointees in this very regime for non-performance. How does it work, a pro and a con, that if I'm going to school, it means I'm gaining knowledge, and so I should rather be performing a lot more? Or rather, because I'm going to school, I'm not effective in office?
Well, if you want to go to school, then you have a specific motive for going to school. Maybe you want to pursue a specific career, activity. For instance, if you are a regional minister or a minister of state or a chief executive, and you want to go and do masters in say, economics, I doubt whether that would directly impact on your appointment as a political head of an institution or a district. So the dynamics, make the situation quite fluid. I think that sometimes, because of the mediocrity factor in the appointment process, people are appointed not on merit. It is when they get to the position, then they realize that their potentials will not be able to meet the expectations of the job. So then they want to find solace elsewhere. But if the president is very dispassionate and we want to, maybe play down on the political patronage and get people, because you see, governance is a serious business. And if you look at the governance at the district, it involves a lot. You will have to implement decisions, you will have to, develop skills in human relations, interpersonal relations. You will have to be the manager of the entire economy of the district. You will have to take up the responsibility of the president of the district. So it entails a lot. And you cannot have any institution that will be able to teach you all these things. But you must have the potential, some experience in governance, some experience in politics, some experience in leadership, some experience in management. You see, the president ought to scout very widely. But in most of these positions, across the political divide, it is political patronage. The president came from Europe and got his money. He contested for the position of member of parliament. Maybe he contested the sitting member of parliament and lost. So to compensate him, then he becomes the chief executive. Or sometimes, if the people want to get rid of the incumbent member of parliament, they will put him up for him to be groomed to take over from him. Then it becomes major challenges in terms of governance at that level, because somebody who contested a sitting member of parliament and lost, then you give him that kind of power. I mean, how would their working relations be? So the patronage, if it's left out, then we can see some headway in the scheme of things. But ultimately, we need to elect them. Get all MMDCs elected, just like members of parliament are elected. They have their security of tenure. And for that matter, if a member of parliament decides that I want to pursue academic progression or something, I want to attend any institution, he has the security of tenure. Nobody can bully him, because the rules of parliament would tell him how to go about it. But in our situation, the man is appointed. At the beck and call of the president, anything can happen to him. Now, somebody might have paid his fees and is already getting to maybe an examination time. They say, hey, please, don't continue? What does he do? So these are critical issues that we need to look at in terms of realigning the entire governance system in this country, especially at the district level.
Okay, thank you very much. George Chebafor is a local government expert, and that's critical. So election of such categories of appointees or those position holders will be critical. Is that the best way?
Right. You see, when you look at the institution of chieftaincy, paramount chiefs or kingmakers, there is no requirement that to be a chief, you should have academic qualifications. There is nothing like that.
Understandable.
You know the ways we appoint chiefs. It's hereditary and whatnot, elective, fine. But these days, chiefs and communities have come to a stage that they say, look, if you are going to install a chief these days, look for one who can speak and write English, who is literate, in short.
Who is educated.
Who is educated in that.
They just don't say education. Just speak and write. They want you to be well educated.
Well educated. So these days, that's behind everything, all traditions and customs. They have that behind their minds. And they go on to pick one who is literate.
So your argument is?
You get my point. My argument now is, in politics, the Constitution, when you look at it, what is the qualification to be an MP? It doesn't talk of academic qualifications. I get in it. So you go for elections, you are voted. Then a president is supposed to appoint
2/3.
2/3 from parliament. Okay? Now, if you have to appoint with those biases, you have to put at the back of your mind that the person I'm going to appoint as a regional minister or as a minister of finance or as a minister of whichever ministry should be able to deal with the world. And what is the world today? The person is going to meet IMF, the person is going to meet World Bank, the person is going to meet ambassadors, and the
business leaders.
The business at that stage is high level, and it requires
well-educated journalists.
It requires very good. It requires a well-educated person, someone who has gone to study how to do analysis, how to determine things, and how to speak those kind of language. Where do you get it? Then you look at in terms of job matching and person to job matching qualifications. You look and see where can that fellow acquire this? Certainly, first degree university or second degree university or PhD. That is how we match people into jobs. So when you are doing so in politics, though it's not written in the Constitution, but this should be at the back of your mind. So you don't just go and put anybody there. Now, this government appointed persons from wherever, in quotes. You appoint children to come and govern adults. How does it work? Then the children now say, I need qualification, I need experience in this to be. So the correlation here is a competent person will normally recruit a competent staff. A non-competent person or employer will recruit incompetent staff. So there's a correlation with somebody with all these ideas.
But that's politics.
Yeah, that's politics, but that is where we are today.
Okay.
So there is a correlation between the team governing Ghana and the economic performance of Ghana today. That is where we are today. We've run to IMF when we shouldn't have gone to.
And you're saying because the team is incompetent?
Certainly.
Because they are now going to school to go and learn?
They are now going to school because they've realized that they need certain skills, certain competencies to be able to deal with the new offices. And if you are coming into politics, look, we shouldn't underrate or underestimate the political business. It's like employing somebody as an MD of a big company in this country. Why don't you just pick anybody from the street to be manager of Ghana Commercial Bank? Why don't we just pick anybody from the street to be director of ADB?
So it means we need some amendments somehow or some...
No, the president should know all you don't need to be told.
My last question on this. Now, at what point do we have to say that, well, we only need to appoint educated people thinking they are the most competent of all? When we know sometimes education necessarily doesn't always get things done. Because indeed, if we always wanted the best minds, we have them. But our country, since independence, has been the way it is.
Yes, so in the group that you are choosing from, you can still get people based on merit. So, for example, if I think that I should choose people because they voted for me and they are in my party and I'm president, yes, then I say fine. For some political reason, then they say, okay, the constitution says there should be regional balance. So I say, okay, then I'm going to the Volta region. I don't just pick anybody from Volta region. I still have people who have the necessary qualifications, who have the emotional intelligence to deal with every situation.
So you're saying that it's about choice and the priorities together, right?
Yes, I should choose. The criteria should be based on merit from the same group of people.
Let me run this by you. Kesley Hayford, you know Sidney Kesley Hayford, a financial analyst, has been talking about how we need to scrap regional minister roles and claiming that if we can have perhaps the bulk of the DCs maybe being the boss or the supervisors in a particular region, that would be good.
Maybe that is a new idea.
Regional ministers, what do they do?
They represent the president.
But the president has a representation in the chief of staff, in various ministers. Why do we need regional ministers?
The regions are a distance away from the center. And it's a step towards what we may talk about decentralizing and evolution of powers. And it's proper to have somebody who is always on the spot, wearing the president's cap and implementing the policies in the environment, giving the leadership, the needed leadership, with authority in hand. So if it is to say we should look at it in a way, then DCEs are elected and the DCEs will elect a leader to be the regional head, that is a different ballgame. But as to what it is, the country is big and the president will need representation. We also need to decentralize. And so we must be working towards...
so you're saying it's a non-starter?
Oh, I think so.
It's a non-starter.
So. It's not something people will know about. It's something we can look out for the future. It's not bad anyway to say so that they should elect people in the regions, yes. And we may have to link it with the authority of the president in a way, since the person has to represent the president of the republic. So we can look at it in another way. But for now, I don't think it will take shape. Yeah.
Have you been hearing about the Andani royal family vowing to protect themselves from any attack from the Abudu royal family? What's happening with the conflict in the Yendi area?
That is about brothers and sisters, or brothers and brothers doing their own thing. You see, one thing I have come to know about the Abudu and Andani is that people are speaking for the real Andanis and people are speaking for the real Abudus. Okay? You trace the background of most of the spokespersons and all that, and they are not indigenous Andanis. They are not indigenous Abudus. It's like people it should matter because you see, when you go to this thing about spokesperson in government, in parties, it's creating problem. Let the people themselves see to adjudicate. You see, my problem is normally we like too much legal processes. I always believe that let's use the customary and traditional processes and get the people themselves to sit and explore what it is and what it ought to be. You see? But when you take matters to court and the court gives a verdict, look, you haven't found a solution to the problem. Get the people themselves. Of course, President Kufuor instituted the Asante Hene, the eminent chiefs team. And certainly, they were using the customs and the tradition. It's not like they can sit and pronounce you are wrong or you are guilty and this, okay? So let's use the traditional mechanisms and let the people themselves be honest and sincere to themselves.
All right.
And so the old politics that was played is the cause of the Andani Abudu's problem.
Wow. Anyway, thanks for joining us this morning. Boniface Gambila Adakbila is a Member of Parliament for Nagdam, and thanks for joining me this morning. And tomorrow, will you be in Parliament?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have to...